Welcome to Bhagavad Purana episode 2. Before we go anywhere today, I want to begin with one verse, and I should tell you why. Every book has a first line, and the first line tells you what kind of book you are holding. Now, the Bhagavata could have opened with a story. It has plenty of them. It could have opened with Krishna. It could have opened with a king in trouble. It does none of that. Vyasa opens this book with a question about the origin of everything. Where does all this come from? What is the source that is aware of itself and depends on nothing? And there is one more thing I want you to notice about this verse. Its first words are taken from another text, from the opening of the Vedanta Sutras. So, right in the first breath of the book, Vyasa is telling us this is not a collection of tales and stories. This is philosophy, read it that way. So, this is where the whole Bhagavat begins. Let me read it to you. Uh, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय जन्मादस्य यतो अन्वया दितरतस चार्थेष्वभिज्ञ स्वराट तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि. Uh, Translation: I meditate upon that truth, Brahman, Supreme Lord, from whom the creation, the sustenance, and destruction of this universe proceed directly and indirectly, who is fully cognizant of all objects and self luminous, independent Sorat, who first imparted Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahma, not Brahman, which is separate, different concept. The primeval sage, Brahma, about whom even sages and gods are bewildered, by whose illusory power or Maya the three modes of nature function and transformations like fire, water, and earth appear, and who forever shines brightly, completely free from all illusions. Uh, this translation is by G.V. Tagare, and that verse sets the tone for everything we are doing here. Because look at what it does. It does not promise any entertainment. It does not promise any comfort. It ends by saying, on that truth, let us meditate. Before we enter story, we enter inquiry. Okay, welcome back. Last time we left Parikshit in a very tender moment. He had asked his question. And remember how he asked it? Not with panic, not with bargaining. He asked with hunger. What should a man hear in his last 7 days? What is actually worth knowing when the time is this short? And Sukaji had made his offer. Not a cure, he didn't provide any cure, not a distraction, not 7 days of comfort. He offered the whole Bhagavat Purana, all of it in 7 days. And around them, the sages had gathered, the lineage keepers, men who had given their entire lives to understanding truth. They sat in a circle on the banks of the Ganga. And then Parikshit bowed. I keep coming back to that bow because I think about what is happening there. A king is bowing an emperor, the most powerful man in that place, and he is putting his head down in front of a young man who owns literally nothing. That bow says three things at once. It says knowledge is greater than kingship. It says listening matters more than defending. And it says something about viveka, that clear discrimination about what actually lasts. Parikshit has seen it now, and when a person sees it, the first honest response is to bow to somebody who can teach. Now we are ready. Today we begin where Sukaji actually begins. And here is what may surprise you. He does not begin with stories. No Krishna yet, no adventures of the divine. Not yet. He begins with foundations, with the structure of reality itself, with the principles underneath everything. Now, that might sound abstract to you, dry even. Philosophy first, stories later. Hmm, that sounds a little bit dry. It is not abstract, and I will show you why. Because the question is not what is the universe made of? The question is what is a person made of? And what happens to that person at the end? Parikshit is not asking a theory question. He is asking with 7 days left. So when Shukaji answers with the structure of reality, he is not changing the subject. He is answering exactly what was asked. That is where we go now. So Sukaji begins to answer. And notice what he does not do first. He does not begin with creation. He does not begin with God. He does not begin with a story. He begins with something much more basic. He says, look at what everything is made of. Everything that exists, he says, is made of three qualities, three gunas. Now, I want to be careful here. This is not a belief you are being asked to accept. It is closer to an observation. Somebody watched nature very carefully for a very long time and said, I see three forces at work here, and they are working everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean it. In you, in me, in this room, in your thought processing, decision making, in your feelings, in the office you work in, the governments, in the whole, cosmos. The three are sattva, raja, tama. Sattva, raja, tama. Let me take them one at a time. Sattva. This is clarity, balance, lucidity. When your mind is in sattva, you can see what is actually in front of you. You are calm, but you are awake. You are involved, but you are not reacting to everything. I find it easiest to think of sattva as light, not necessarily the sun, just light in a room. When the light is good, you see the room as it is. And when you see clearly, you can act wisely. Very simple. Second, Raja. This is movement, passion, drive, desire. Raja is what makes things happen. And please do not think of it as bad. Without Raja, nothing gets built, nothing gets started. Every project you have ever finished, Raja was in it. But Raja has a shadow side as well. When Raja takes over, you cannot sit well. You are always chasing the next thing. You finish something and immediately you want the next thing and next thing. And you never test what you just did. Restless, never satisfied. So think of Rajas as fire. Fire cooks your food, it transforms things, but fire without control burns the house down. The third, tama. Tama is heaviness, inertia, kind of dullness. The mind gets clouded, things slow down, and eventually things dissolve. And again, Tama is not simply bad. We need it. Without Tama, there is no rest, no sleep, and without dissolution, the old never clears out to make space for the new. That is also Tamas doing its work. But when Tamas takes over, you know that feeling heavy, lazy, confused, and you cannot make yourself do it. Think of tamas as darkness. Some darkness you need for sleep or rest, but too much of it and you cannot see where you're going, not very good. Now, here is the part people usually miss, and it is the most important part. These three are never separate, they are always mixed. In every moment, in every person, all three are there, present. What changes is the proportion of it. Sometimes sattva is on the top, So you are clear, you see the situation, and you know what to do. Sometimes Raja is on the top. You are producing, moving, achieving, but you may not be very aware. You can be very busy and very lost at the same time. Sometimes Tamas is on the top, foggy, slow, heavy, and most of the time, all three mixed together in some proportion, making the texture of your day. So these are with you in different proportions. Now, think about why he gives this first before anything else. He is giving Parikshit kind of map, not a doctrine, but a map, like a GPS. Because once you have these three, you can look at your own mind and ask a simple question: what is running me right now? Am I seeing clearly, or am I just moving fast? Am I resting or am I moving? And it works outward too. You can look at an institution, at a government, at a family, and ask the same thing. So, this is the foundation. Everything that comes later in the Bhagavata, every story, every teaching is built on top of this. So we are going to keep returning to these three words for years, you and I. Learn them now, and everything after becomes easier. Now I want to slow down on Sattva, just uh, this one for a while. Because Sattva is one people misunderstand the most, and I misunderstood it for years myself. Here is the mistake: people hear sattva and they think it means being good, moral goodness, the nice person, the one who never gets angry. But that is not what the word is doing here. Sattva is clarity. That is the simplest way I can say it. Sattva is what happens when you see a thing as it actually is, not as you fear it is, not as you hope it is, as it is. That is Sattva. And when the mind is in that state, a few things happen together. You see the situation and you also see how it came about. Cause and effect become visible. And then, very often, the right action becomes visible too. What the moment is asking for, dharma, in that specific situation. There is also a certain ease that comes with it. And I want to be careful here because I'm not saying everything feels nice. The situation may be very hard, you may be in trouble, But there is a kind of peace anyway, because you are not fighting with reality. You are seeing it, and from seeing it, you can act. Let me make this concrete. I want you to actually do this with me. Think about a good decision that you made in your life. Not a perfect one, just one that looking back now, you still feel okay about. Have it in your mind? Now, what was your state that day? State of mind. Were you panicking? Were you desperate? Were you chasing something? Probably not. You're probably quite calm. You could see more than one side. You knew what mattered in that situation and what did not matter. You could see roughly where each choice could lead. And from that place, you chose. That was sattva. You have already experienced it. You just did not have a word for it. There is something else about sattva. In this state, you can actually learn. You have noticed this, right? When the mind is agitated, you can read the same page 10 times and nothing goes in. When the mind is in heavy, dull, same problem, but in a clear state, things go in. You see the pattern, you connect one thing to another. Understanding becomes possible. And there is a joy in it, but it is in a particular kind of joy. So let me separate it out. It is not excitement. Excitement is raja. It is not numbness. What is numbness? Numbness is tama, the quality called tama. It is more like satisfaction, a quiet sense that what you are doing is coming from something true and not from fear and not from craving. Now, one very important correction, and this one matters for how we understand the whole text. Sattva is not about escaping the world. Sattva is not the person sitting apart from life, untouched above it all. Sattva is about seeing this world clearly and then acting well inside it. A clear leader is not somebody who has withdrawn from decisions. It is somebody who can see what the situation actually needs and does that. Fully engaged, fully involved, but not reacting to every provocations, not driven by personal ambition. Let's go to organization. A clear organization is not one where nothing is happening. It is one where things happen and everybody knows why. The purpose is visible. And a clear person is not a passionless person. They have energy, they want things, they care very much. But the energy is being steered, guided by understanding, instead of being dragged around by craving or by fear or by any other emotions. And now look back at where we are in the story. There is a man sitting on that river bank with 7 days to live. He was cursed, he could be raging, he could be bargaining or blaming that boy who cursed him, or hiding in his palace. Instead, he sits down and asks the best question he can think of. That is not a saint being calm. That is a man seeing his situation exactly as it is and acting from what he sees. Parikshit is not just receiving his teaching, he is demonstrating it. Now we cannot stop at sattva. That would give you a very lopsided picture because rajas and tamas are not the villains of this story. You need both of them. Right now, today, you are using both of them. So let us take them seriously. Rajas first. Rajas is movement, passion, drive, and without it, nothing happens. Think about it simply. You would not even eat if some desire did not push you toward food. Nobody would build a house or start a business or raise a child or write a book. No civilization gets built without rajas. It is the engine. But here is what the text keeps pointing at. When rajas takes over the whole mind, it produces suffering. And the suffering has a very particular flavor. You are always reaching. You finish one thing, and before you have even put it down, your mind is on the next thing. You get what you wanted, and somehow it does not taste the way you imagine it would taste. You know this feeling. We all know this feeling. Rajas produces restlessness. It produces that low anxiety that something is missing, even on a good day. And it produces comparison. You are always measuring yourself against somebody, and there is always somebody. But You can put this into an office or an institution. When Rajaj is running that place, everybody is busy, very ambitious, very driven. Everybody is also, pulling in their own direction. There is no shared purpose, just many private individual agendas. People burn out, and organizations keep chasing growth or status or numbers without anybody stopping to ask whether it will serve the actual work. So busy is not the same as clear. Hold that. Now let's go to tamas. Tamas is a heaviness, rest, dissolution, things slowing down, eventually returning. And this one also is necessary. When you are exhausted and you sleep, that is tamas doing its job. When an old habit finally dies and a new one can start, that is also tamas. When the body returns to the earth finally, that is tamas. Without it, there is no rest anywhere in the system. Everything would just keep expanding and expanding until it broke. But when tamas takes over, you know exactly what that is like. Heavy, foggy, you cannot make yourself begin. Nothing feels like it matters much. Sometimes it looks like laziness. Sometimes it looks like sadness. And sometimes it just looks like a person going through the motions of their own life. And in an institution or organization, when tamas takes over, things stop moving. People follow procedures nobody can explain anymore. Nothing new is tried. Everybody comes to work and nobody's heart is in that. The place becomes slowly irrelevant and there is not enough energy left in the room to change it. Therefore, managers sometimes call for change management. So now put the three together because that is the actual teaching. They are always mixed, always. It is the proportion that shifts. A leader needs rajas. Without it, nothing moves. But that rajas has to be steered, driven by clarity, or it becomes just a noise. A person needs tamas. You must rest, you must let things settle. But if tamas runs the show, nothing gets done, nothing gets completed. And the real skill is being able to notice which one is driving you right now and then to shift. So, this is also, I think, what dharma actually means. Not a fixed list of rules, it is the capacity to see what this moment is asking for and to do that. When clarity guides your movement and you also know when to stop and when to rest, that is dharma, means wisdom in action. And now let's go back to our story and watch it again with these three words. A king, exhausted and thirsty from hunting, comes to a hermitage. He is not clear. He is tired and irritated, and he does something small and stupid which he would never have done, rested. A young man hears about it and explodes that in rage and curses a king to die without checking anything first. His father hears the curse and says quietly, "You have punished a small fault with death." And the king, hearing his sentence, does not rage or bargain. He sits down and asks the best question of his life. Same story, four people, three qualities. Once you have this map, you never read anything the same way again. All right, let's bring this down from the cosmos to your daily life. Because a map is useless if you never open it. So, let me ask you something and answer it in your head. Do not just listen. Your mind this morning, let's talk about that. How was it? Clear or restless? Already reaching for the phone before your eyes, were properly open, or heavy and you did not want to get up at all? Some mixture probably. But if you look honestly, one of them was leading, if not all of them. Now, do the same for your workplace. Let's get to the workplace. Do people there actually know why they are doing what they are doing? What is sattva in a system? Or is everybody driven, competitive, exhausted, and nobody can, quite say what it is all for? This is a rajas running into the place. Or has it gone quiet in a bad way? Meetings that decide nothing. Everyone present, nobody is really there. Their hearts are not there. That is tamas. You already know the answer for your own workplace. You knew it before I finished the sentence. Now, here is the step that people usually skip. The first move is not to fix anything. The first move is only to see it, observe it. That is what Viveka means. The ability to tell one thing from another. And it begins very simply by naming what is running you at this moment. Viveka is not judging it, because the moment you can name it, something shifts. You are no longer completely inside it. There is a little space, and in that space, choice becomes possible. If Rajas is driving you, you can stop and ask, is this taking me toward something I actually care about? Or am I only carried by momentum now? Just think about it. If tamas is sitting heavy on you, you can ask, do I genuinely need rest? Or have I been, resting for 3 weeks, and what I need now is to move? Now, before we finish, I want to give you a warning, because there is a trap here, and it is a quiet kind of trap. Do not turn sattva into a project. What do I mean by that? Somebody hears a teaching like this and decides, right, from tomorrow I will be clear, I will be calm. And then the next morning comes, they are irritated in traffic, and now they are angry with themselves for being irritated. See what happened? There were two problems where there was one. That pushing, that self improvement energy, that is not sattva, that is rajas, wearing a spiritual costume, the same restlessness as before. Only now the prize is a state of mind instead of a promotion. And I'm saying this as somebody who has done it. You decide you will sit quietly every morning. After some days, it becomes a kind of a streak, a number. And then one morning you miss it and you feel that small sting of failure. Look closely at that sting sometime. That is not clarity protecting itself. That is ambition in a nicer, clothes. So let us be realistic. You are not going to live permanently in sattva. You have work, a family, you have bills to pay, phones that keep buzzing, Nobody in this life stays, in that quality all day. And the text is not asking you to do that. What it offers is something more useful. Call it fluency, knowing all three from the inside, recognizing them quickly without drama, and being able to move when the moment asks for it. So, let me leave you with one small practice for the week. Only one, and a small one. Because small things actually get done than the big ambitious one. Once a day, at any time you like, morning tea, in the car, before sleep, stop for about 10 seconds and ask yourself one question: which one is running me right now? That is the whole practice. Nothing to fix, nothing to become. You are only naming it the way you would name a color, just like a color. And if you keep at it for some days, something interesting begins to happen. In the beginning, you will notice late. You will look back at an evening and think, ah, that whole argument was rajas. Then, after some time, you start catching it while it is happening. You are inside the restlessness, and some small part of you knows. And then, once in a while, you catch it just before you speak. That moment is worth everything. Think of your story again. A young man hears something, feels the heat rise, and speaks immediately, curses a king to death. If there had been 1 second of that recognition between the feeling and the words, we would not have this Purana at all. And that, finally, is what Parikshit has been given. 7 days, and he is not spending them on rituals, any kind of a cure, or on comfort. He is spending them learning to see. So, let me leave you with what you are actually carrying out of today. Three words: sattva, rajas, tamas. That is all. But those three words are the floor this whole text stands on. Every story that comes later, every teaching, everything Krishna does, all of it sits on top of these three. And you are not asked to believe anything, only to watch. Watch your own mind for 1 week and see for yourself whether it is true. Now, one small thing before we close. I would like to hear from you. Sometime this week, you will catch it. You will notice which one is running you. Maybe an hour late, maybe right in the middle of it. When that happens, come to the comments and tell me. One line is enough. what you noticed and when. I do read them, and I'll bring some of your answers into the next episode because this teaching becomes clear when many people are watching at once. Next week, episode 3, we go deeper creation itself and how it unfolds through these same three qualities. And we will meet Brahma, the creator. And I will tell you now, something happens in that conversation that stopped me the first time I read it. The creator of this universe is asked where everything comes from. And his answer is not the one you are expecting. Thank you for sitting with this today. The sources for this episode are in the description below, as always. I will see you next week. Namaste.